Hey my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to share with you how to make this lovely toothpaste. If this is what you're interested in, do wait to watch this video to the end, and do not forget to subscribe at the end of today's video. Share, like and comment, and let's get started. I'm going to start with the upper part, and my fabric is in a fold of 2. So to know the amount of fabric you will fold, divide your hip measurement by 4 and add extra 2 inches to it. I'm going to mark out a line at this top which will serve as our shoulder line. I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll mark 3 inches for my neck width and 1 inch for the neck depth. Okay, I will go ahead to connect the 2 points together. So I'll come over to where I took my shoulder measurement, come down by 1 inch. I will slope my shoulder. So I'm going to come down to my chest line, and mine is 7.5 inches. I will mark it out. I will proceed to connect my shoulder and my chest line like this. The next line I'm going to mark out is my shirt length. Okay, so my shirt length is 25 inches. I'm going to add extra 1.5 inches to it for my hemming allowance. I will go ahead to connect across, and after connecting I'm going to cut out that part. Okay, I'm going to cut it out so we can know what we are working with. This right here is my shirt length. Okay, so the next line I will mark out is my waistline, and in this case mine is 16 inches. I am going to mark it out, and I will proceed to also connect across. After that is done, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4 and mark it on my chest line. Add extra 1.5 inches to it. So 1 inch is for my sewing allowance and 1/2 inch is for ease. Okay, coming to my waist measurement, I will also mark out my waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches. So 1/2 inch is for ease and 1 inch for sewing allowance. On my shirt length as well, I mark out my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to connect the 3 points together like this, from my bust to my waist to my shirt length like this. And after that, I'll go ahead to connect this and this right now in a straight line. Can you see this and this in a straight line? My bust and my hip measurement in a straight line like this. So after connecting the two together, I'm going to check the difference I have from my waist measurement, the difference I have there. Okay, I'm just going to check it out, and what I have there is 2 inches. I'm going to come in by extra 1 inch. I always do this whenever I am making a shirt, especially a free shirt, okay, to avoid that waistline being too deep. Okay, so that is all for that. So I will come over to the side, come up by 2 inches and connect to the center like this. This is to curve that side, okay, to curve that part. Can you see? And I will cut it out. So I'm going to come over to the shoulder. Remember that this shirt doesn't have a full shoulder. I'm going to reduce the shoulder by 1.5 inches or 2 inches, depending on what you want. Okay, depending how deep you want it to go. Okay, so I came in by 1.5 inches from where I have my shoulder line, and I am going to curve it out. Just watch the way I place my curve rule. So from that point, I will curve it to my chest line this way. Can you see? So after that, I'm going to go ahead to add 1/2 inch around the shoulder and on the neckline for my stitching allowance, and I'll proceed to cut out. So this is what we have after cutting it out. I'm going to use this to cut out the front piece. Okay, so guys, for my front piece I have cut it out. Okay, I placed my back piece on another folded fabric, and I traced out the sides, the armhole, the shoulder and the down part the same. If you notice carefully, you will see that the front is longer than the back with about 2.5 inches. Okay, that's because you're going to have a button on the center front. Hope you understand. So for the neck depth, okay, the front is lower than the back, the front neck depth is going to be lower than the back. Okay, so remember that I came down by 1 inch for my back neck depth. I am going to come down by extra 2 inches again for the front. Okay, so I'm going to place my tape on my back neckline. I came down by extra 2 inches. I will indicate where my neckline started, and I'm going to go ahead to connect from here to the extra 2 inches I went down by, and I will cut out. Hope that is well understood. I will slit my button allowance open. So you might be wondering why I left a whole 2.5 inches for just button allowance. So guys, I'm going to use just 1.5 inches for my button, and the remaining 1 inch is going to serve as an overlap allowance. Remember, sometimes when you wear shirts, you will notice that your cleavage is showing or the shirt is not well overlapped. So that 1 inch is going to be used to the two front piece is going to overlap with 1 inch on that button area. I don't know if you understood. So what I did next was to iron in 1/2 inch. Okay, I iron in 1/2 inch with my pressing iron, and again I iron it 1 inch again. So we already created our button, okay, allowance. I'm going to sew from the top all the way to the bottom, and after sewing I'm going to bring the front and the back and join on the shoulder. So after doing all that, you can see how the center front is overlapping, okay, and the sides are equal. You can see how it overlapped very perfectly. So that is what I explained earlier. Okay, I don't know if you understand. So I'm going to go ahead to turn the front and the back to the wrong side. As you can see, I'm going to indicate my waistline. From the shoulder I will come down to my waistline 16 inches, and I'm going to chalk it. I'll also do the same thing on the other side, come down by 16 inches. And I created this rope. Okay, this is totally optional because I want to snatch my waist at the back. So I created this rope. You can see this is the length, about 20 something inches, while the wideness is 2 inches. Before I shape my shirt, I'm going to first of all pipe this armhole. I'm going to fold 1/4 inch twice and sew all the way to the other side. You can also use your bias to do this, and after that I'm going to put in my rope. Okay, I'm going to place it directly on that waistline. Good. I'm going to go ahead to sew. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Place the rope inward like this directly on the waistline. I will go ahead to shape my shirt with my 1 inch allowance, and after that is done, this is what I have. I also went ahead to hem the down part. Okay, and that is all for that. The next step is to create our collar. I'm going to use a simple collar for this. Okay, so you're going to measure what you have around the neckline, the front and the back neckline all together, and what I got was 19 inches. I'm going to use this 19 inches to create my collar. My fabric is in a fold of 2, and the length of the collar I am creating is 3 inches. I will go ahead to mark 3 inches like this. After marking the 3 inches, I'm going to use my ruler to connect the points across. So after that, I'm going to divide that 19 inches I got into 2, and I will add extra 1/2 inch for stitching the side, okay, which is 10 inches, and I marked it. As you can see, this part is the part that's going to be sewn directly to the neckline. Okay, so I'll come over to this part, come out by 1 inch, and I'm going to slant it like this, okay, to give it that collar effect, and I'll proceed to cut out. So I'm going to cut out 2 of these, okay, and this is it after cutting out. As you can see, so I'm going to go ahead to iron in my interfacing, and I will sew this upper part, also sew the sides. I'll bring it back. So guys, this is what I have after I was done sewing. If you notice carefully, I iron in 1/2 inch inward on one side, okay, and I sew it together with the sides. Can you see? So I'm going to indicate the midpoint by folding the collar into 2. I will notch the midpoint like this. So guys, I'll also fold the shirt on the neckline and also notch the center. The next step is to sew the collar to the shirt. So I'm going to match up that notch I made earlier. Take note that the right side of the collar is facing the wrong side of the fabric. I'm going to match up the ends like this. I'll use my pin to secure everything so it doesn't move while I sew. I'll also match up this other end like this. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew by 1/2 inch, and after sewing it, I'm going to bring it back. And this is what I have after sewing, you can see. So the next step is to fling the collar to the right side of the fabric. So we are going to use the collar now to cover all the seam, okay, the seam we made earlier. I'm going to use it to cover everything like this. Guys, see, so I'm going to cover everything, and I'm going to go over to my sewing machine. I will sew very closely to the hem of the collar, and I'll bring it back. After I was done doing all that, this is what our shirt looks like. So I bended the collar and ironed up properly. So the next step is to create your buttonhole and attach your button, but I'll be taking it to people that does that, okay. And I'm going to keep the shirt aside while we work on the pant. So for the pants, my fabric is in a fold of 2. I'm going to mark out my waistline. To know the amount of fabric you're going to fold, you're going to divide your hip measurement by 4. Add 1 inch for your seam allowance. Also add extra 4 to 5 inches to it, okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is to mark from my waistline to my hip line, which is 9 inches. I'm going to mark out my crotch line. So mine is 11.5 inches, okay. So you are going to divide your hip measurement by 4, add extra 1 inch to it, that is your crotch line, okay. So if you notice, I did not minus any waistband as I am marking out all my lines. That is because I am making a high waistband. So if you are going to make a low waistband, minus your waistband before you mark out all your lines, okay. So for me, I am making a high waistband, okay. I'm going to go ahead to mark out that my hip line across, and also connect my crotch line across. After that is done, I will come over to my waistline. I'm going to mark my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for my seam allowance. I'm going to mark the same measurement on my crotch, okay, and I'll go ahead to connect into a straight line like so. After that is done, I'm going to mark out my crotch extension. So to know your crotch extension, you're going to divide your hip measurement by 4. Whatever you get, further divide it by 4 again. So mine is 2.75 inches. I'm going to mark it after this line, okay. So I'm going to mark it after this line, 2.75 inches. And here I'm going to mark 1 inch upward diagonally like this. And I will proceed to curve out my crotch like this. You can see what I have. I will go ahead to mark out my actual waist measurement. So from here, I will come in by my waist measurement plus 1 inch for seam allowance. I will connect it to this hip like this, curve out my hip like this, and I'm going to take this all the way down, okay. So I'm going to go ahead to cut out, leaving 1/2 inch for joining the waistbands to the main fabric. Hope you understand. So I'm going to cut. So the next step is to take the length of the pants. I'm going to place my tape on my waistline. I will mark out my pants length. For me, I'm going to mark out 44 inches. My pants length is 42 inches plus extra 2 inches for hemming allowance. I will go ahead to cut everything straight, okay, because this is a palazzo pants. You don't need to shape it. I will cut everything straight like this. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel at this point, kindly do that, and God bless you. Thank you. And this is what I have after that. So for the back piece, guys, please pardon me, I lost that particular clip where I drafted the back piece. I lost the clip while I was editing, so I have to redo the video. So guys, please pardon me, but I'm going to explain everything I did on the fabric. I'm going to explain it on this pattern paper, exactly how I did this on my fabric. So if you are making yours, just do this on your main fabric. You don't need to use any pattern paper, okay. So if you notice, at the upper part I left some allowance, and at the flap area I also left some allowance. The next I'm going to do is to come over to this upper part. I will go up by 1.5 inches, or you can go up by 2 inches. I'm going to connect it to the side like this. I'm going to slant it to the side like this, as you can see. After that, I will come over to my hip line. Where my hip line is on my front piece, I will come out by 2 inches, come to this crotch line, come out by 2.5 inches. I'm going to slant this from the waistline like this. I'm going to slant it to the 2 inches I came out around my hip line, and from that point I'm going to also curve it to my crotch line like this. Can you see? So guys, after that is done, I'll come over to this point. I'm going to come out by 1.5 inches, and I'm going to take this 1.5 inches all the way down to the hem of the pant. Okay, I'm going to take it all the way down to the hem of the pant, and the side remains the same. The side of the pant, the front and the back remains the same. Okay, so this is what I have. So I lost the clip when I was drafting it, but this is what I have. Okay, you can see everything I explained. This is what it looks like. I went up by 1.5 inches around the hip. I came out by 2 inches on the crotch. I also came out by 2.5 inches, and I came down. I brought it all the way down. I reduced it 1.5 inches all the way down, while the side remains the same. Okay, so that is all for that. I will go ahead to sew with 1/2 inch. I'll also sew this flap with 1/2 inch, the front and the back, and I'll bring it back after that. So after I was done sewing, I open up the seam, I iron everything properly. The next I'm going to do is to join the front and the back on the sides by 1 inch, which is the allowance I added. So I will go ahead to do that. Sew from the top all the way to the hem. So guys, after I was done joining the sides, I'm going to join this hem seam. Okay, I'll bring this flap together. I'm going to join it, make sure it is well aligned. I'll sew from there to the hem by 1/2 inch, and also come over to this point, sew from here to the end by 1/2 inch. After I was done doing that, I'm going to rip one side open, okay, where I will attach my zipper. So after opening it, okay, I have 7 inches to 8 inches right there. I will top stitch at that point, and I will go ahead to measure around my waistline in order to cut out my waistband. So after measuring, I got 34 inches. I'm going to use it to cut out my waistband. So my waistband is 1.5 inches wide unfold. So if you open it up, you have almost 4 inches. Okay, almost 4 inches. So I folded 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, while the length is what I measured around the waistline plus extra 4 inches. Okay, I prefer to have excess fabric than to have shortage of fabric. The next I'm going to do is to open up the 1/2 inch I iron in. I'm going to sew the right side of the waistband to the wrong side of the pant. I'm going to sew all the way around. Okay, after sewing it, this is what I have. Okay, so I'm going to flip it to the right side of the pant right now. You can see that everything is clean from the inside. I'm going to push this seam inward like this and cover up everything like this. I'm going to sew very closely. Okay, very closely. I will sew it all the way to the end, and after sewing, I will bring it back. The last step is to attach my zipper to that side and also hem the down part of this pant. Okay, thank you for watching. If you find this video helpful, do not forget to subscribe to my channel, and do not forget to turn on your post notifications so that you'll be the first to be notified whenever I upload new video. Also drop your comments, like, share, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.